We begin our service remembering Hannah Burke as we look into the book of Psalms for comfort. There it is written, Esayinai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Eternal, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will protect your being. Adonai yishmor tzetecha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. May the Eternal guard your soul in your going and your coming, now and forevermore. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. Benot-desha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenachaleni. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yamei chayai. V'shafti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. For Hannah, who was indeed an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, and so much more, we read from the book of Proverbs. Eshet Chayil mi yimtza, a woman of valor, who can find? Her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and nothing shall he lack. She renders him good and not evil all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She is robed in strength and dignity and cheerfully faces whatever may come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She tends to the affairs of her household and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her, her husband too, and he praises her. Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty short-lived, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Place before her the fruit of her hands. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. Death has summoned our beloved Hannah Burke. Our souls cry out unto you, O God. What are we? Are we the creatures of dust whose destiny is but to return to the dust from which we came? The ancient sage has taught us the spirit of the human being is the lamp of the Eternal. Not even the darkness of death can extinguish the light which the Eternal has kindled in the sanctuary of the human soul. Therefore, O God, we thank you in this solemn hour for that which was deathless in the life of our cherished Hannah, and which is now revealed to us in all of its beauty. for her love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship which we shared along life's path and which still continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and of her mind, which brought us joy and happiness and now have become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, we give you our praise. Grant unto us, O God, the strength of all the generations of our people who in the face of bereavement proclaimed, Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Still, blessed be the name of God. We are a people often referred to as wandering Jews. In the Bible stories, our matriarchs and our patriarchs are regularly on the move as they make their way from the Mesopotamian region to Canaan to Egypt for some 400 years, and then back for those famous 40 years of wandering in the desert on their way to the Promised Land. And even after we arrive there, we continue to wander as conquering nations overtake that region. Throughout our historic texts from the Bible to the Talmud, through the libraries of ancient civilizations, to the books we find in our Beechwood Library and in our Solon libraries, the journey of our people is recorded stage by stage in books and stories. As our people journey to far-flung countries all around the world, our texts record the story of the Jewish people. The life of our people is a journey. Perhaps you're familiar also with the words of the poet Alvin Fine. He writes about a different kind of journey, one more personal and unique to every individual. His poem begins, "Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey." He's not referring here to our travels, to some kind of tourist travel log telling us where to stop for good food or sightseeing. Rather, his words of journey remind us of points along the way that contribute to the story of a person's life. Sometimes as the journey unfolds, the traveler thinks, what was the travel agent thinking, taking me on such a circuitous route? Or perhaps we experience a very difficult climb. Sometimes the vistas are more gorgeous than we could ever begin to imagine, and sometimes the silence is so peaceful that we hear our hearts. Concerning the journey of our people's life and of an individual's life, it has been said, we are all tourists, and God is our travel agent, who already fixed all of our routes, our reservations, and our destinations. The trip is called life. Hannah Burke lived an interesting life journey. Hers is the intersection of the journey of our people with her personal journey. Her divine travel agent planned some of the most unusual routes for her in that wandering Jew phenomena, along with some of the most interesting personal experiences that took her through an unusual childhood to a storybook kind of romance that would traverse 4 continents. Hers would be a journey filled with joys at the highest peaks of a heart's contentment and crushing sadness that leaves an unbearable scar in the depths of the heart. Our beloved Hannah was actually born with the name of Anna Krasnov. She was born in 1942 in that most unusual place of Shanghai, China. Anna was the oldest daughter of Shana and Alexander, who became known as Sasha, Jews who had settled there as part of the Russian migration to the Far East. Jews escaping pogroms before World War II. She and her sisters, Dolly and Eva, grew up surrounded in this dialectic of the Chinese and Jewish cultures that extended beyond the Christmas Day phenomena that American Jews know. And they shared a closeness with their cousins who were the product of the two sisters marrying two brothers, and thus creating a very strong and deep network of family. But around the time that she was 8 years old, feeling the winds changing in their host country and the pull of fulfilling the ancient dream of the Jewish people, Anna's entire Jewish community decided to emigrate to the nascent state of Israel. That was about 1950. Along with her younger sisters, Anna tried hard to become Israeli and to feel like a Sabra, like she belonged in that land. And that's when she adapted her name from Anna to Hannah. The next part of the world tour she goes on her own. When she would otherwise be preparing to enter the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, her parents had other plans. Concerned that her going into the Israeli army would postpone and perhaps preclude her earning a college degree, they shipped Hannah off to Australia to get her college degree. A bright woman with a strong streak for seeking out knowledge that would last a lifetime, Hannah earned a degree in chemistry and biochemistry from the University of Sydney. Additionally, she and her sisters, because they had been so thoroughly immersed in the Hebrew language, became Hebrew school teachers there as well. But it did not take long before, with Hannah's outgoing and vibrant personality, she attracted the attention of another Chinese Jew, Morris Burke. His family similarly had a divine tour guide, sending them through uncharted territories. Morris was part of the other Chinese Jewish community that settled in Hong Kong almost 2 centuries ago. Feeling the winds changing as the Japanese invaded, his family made a quick stop in India for a time, and then moved on to Australia to arrive there in 1959. So what are the chances? There's a lovely description in Jewish tradition of how when a child is born, a single light goes straight up into the heavens, and when two lights that are beshert, that are destined to find each other, finally find one another, then a single brighter light illumines not just the heavens, but the earth. Hannah and Maury, following the journey of the Jewish people, finally found their beshert in Sydney, Australia in 1961. Initially, he was just supposed to pick her up for a friend and take her to some college party. But he was no fool. Maury quickly realized that they had more in common than just their countries of origin. They were intellectual equals, soulmates, who would be married in 1964. They made it to this fourth continent as they pursued further degrees, and their wanderings led them to the University of Maryland, to Michigan State, and finally here to Cleveland, to Case Western Reserve University. Although they would continue their travels around the world, seeing the sights of Europe and returning to China, Israel, and Australia for family weddings, traveling the United States, and even earlier this year seeing Nova Scotia with the ticket at the ready to take them to Florida in a few weeks. Hannah and Maury were always content, though, to stay here in Cleveland. But Hannah was not one to sit still for long, and she signed them up for every possible experience in Cleveland. Maury affectionately referred to her as Miss Can't Miss a Thing. At Hannah's initiative, they took in the museums. Hannah especially liked going where there was a docent so she could get every detail of an exhibit. They enjoyed the orchestra. They attended dance recitals, even at Beechwood High School. An avid reader who retained the details, Hannah participated in several book clubs. And as an astute critic and curator of Maury's photography, the two of you visited many photo galleries together. And then there was her interest in all things Israeli that kept her motivated, from performances to book clubs to engaging in Israel advocacy. She was frugal and practical, unless it had to do with getting tickets to whatever was her latest interest. All this in addition to her professional career of teaching chemistry at every level, from Case Western Reserve University and Ursuline College nursing students, to community college, to Hathaway Brown High School, to tutoring high school students privately, to tutoring her own grandson Mark at the kitchen table. Smart and patient, she had a way of explaining the principles that prepared her students for success in whatever they went forward to do. With her multiplicity of languages, Hannah was working also on translations from German to English for projects in the American Society of Metals, the Geodome Project, often editing journals and various publications. She had a precision with language that made for not only excellence in her work, but colorful descriptions in her speech. Hannah was that kind of Renaissance woman, fully utilizing both the right and the left sides of her brain. So she was also the other half of Maury's brain. The two of you had a symbiotic relationship, finishing each other's sentences, and Hannah editing your thoughts with an ability to show you the common sense aspect of decisions. She had great perspective, and if she didn't know something, she would easily turn with great facility to her best friend Google. Funny and able to make you laugh so easily, Maury. The two of you shared a chemistry that never makes it into the textbook. The two of you shared that love that as you welcomed your son Danny, and then 3 years later, your Karen. Karen came on Christmas Day, since appropriately Jews and Chinese food are associated with Christmas. Only Karen doesn't like Chinese food. Hannah discovered the riches of motherhood through her children, and she created a warm home, filling it with brisket instead. She took great care and great joy in watching the minds of her children develop, and she was especially taken by the way that Danny remembered numbers. But the number of his years was cut short at the age of 29 when he took his life in 1994, and he took Hannah's heart to the brink of despair. It was with Karen's help, her joy and her celebrations, and her welcoming Bruce into the family, that Hannah's heart began to heal. Continuing her early habit of cooking a different meal for each person, Hannah started making the brisket for you, and she especially liked to share it with Bruce. Bruce, you would slip some of your brisket to Maury when the food police wasn't looking. She was kind of an oxymoron, a food pusher with a heart-healthy diet for everyone. She liked to bake sweet things, but had to exercise almost simultaneously. She wasn't just worrying about Maury, but she wanted to keep all of you healthy. That would extend to her grandchildren as well. Hannah took such special interest in Mark and Robbie, attending your sporting events whenever possible, helping your parents out in every way needed. She was also direct in wanting to instill a love of Israel in your lives. I loved when I visited her home that the bar mitzvah pictures that she chose for the two of you are the ones that wrap you in the Israeli flag. She was creative, she was affectionate, she was generous, she was giving. She filled your minds with good values and all sorts of possibilities. It's that kind of feeling like there were still so many possibilities ahead that makes Hannah's sudden death so startling. Getting herself ready so that she and Maury could go to a genealogy lecture at the Case Western Reserve Siegel Lifelong Learning Program, she started to feel unwell. Within moments of that, she got her wish to someday go fast. It's just that that someday came too fast, too soon. But it seems fitting that her last event had to do with heading into a Jewish environment to explore her generations. That's really how her life unfolded, holding tightly to the identity of her Jewish environments, making sure to support and encourage them as part of the story of the Jewish people, and at the same time, caring about how her own personal story, her own personal history, fit in and what she would bequeath to her generations. Hannah was the epitome of Lador Vador, from generation to generation, sharing the story, the passion, her inquisitive mind to know from whence we came, and always looking forward to where the journey would take her next. Concerning the journey of our people's life and of an individual's life, it has been said, we are all tourists, and God is our travel agent on this trip called life. May Hannah's journey continue to inspire this family, and may her memory continue to be your sacred blessing. Amen. I'd like to call forward, as the prayer of the woman of valor reminds us, her husband and her daughter, who call her blessed.
To my darling wife, Hanushka, the love of my life. I never ever thought I would be in this position giving a eulogy for you. I always took it for granted you would be doing it for me. It is now 4 hours since you passed from us as I start writing. It seems like an instant. We were getting ready for a lecture at Siegel College, and the next you collapsed face down next to me. It still seems like the worst kind of nightmare. In a way, you left us like you said you wanted, very quickly. But the pain and the hole in my heart still expand. I cannot fathom that this is real. The first time I saw you, I was instantly smitten and knew straight away that I wanted you to share my life. Even though we met on a blind date about which I was quite apprehensive, my heart skipped a beat when I beheld you. And the rest is history. It had to be. 2 authentic Chinese Jews, you born in Shanghai and I born in Hong Kong. And we even found out that our relatives even knew of one another. You left China in 1950 for Israel, and in 1959 came to Australia. I left Hong Kong in 1941 for India, and then left India in 1947 for Australia. And so, my darling, we have shared 55 years together and dated a few years before that. We raised 2 great kids, but we have had to endure the pain that lingers even now for the loss of our beloved Danny. We have shared in the joy of seeing our Karen marry Bruce and watch our grandsons Mark and Robbie grow up to be wonderful young men. I was with you. It was you who gave up your childhood ambition to be a doctor and followed me and encouraged me to take the risks that allowed me to follow the career I could only dream of. For this I am and have been so grateful. I feel an overwhelming void overtaking me. I will miss you for your love, devotion that I took so easily for granted. And there's one thing I would like to share. We never fought, although very rarely we may have had some disagreements. I recall that on one such occasion you said to me, "I'm the only woman in the world who would put up with you." To which I instantly replied, "And you see how lucky I am. I found you." So, my beloved, you are the sunshine of my life. The wind beneath my wings, I will always love and adore you.
I'm going to read a letter that my mom's sister, Dolly, wrote to us after learning of my mom's death. Dolly lives in Israel, and her other sister, Eva, also. Dear Maury and Karen, I will try and put into words my feelings, memories, and my weeping heart. After Leor's death, I felt that no other tragedies could touch tragedies could touch me because my heart was completely broken. Hannah's death proved me wrong, so wrong. I feel this unbearable pain and my broken heart bleeds again. Hannah, my beloved sister, only 2.5 years older, but always a role model for me. Throughout our childhood, I looked up to her. In high school, our teachers expected me to live up to her reputation, but honestly, I couldn't and didn't. Although she was an excellent pupil in all subjects, she was very modest. Years later, when we were adults and I told her for the first time what her teacher said to me, and she dismissed it, saying Esther was better than me. Hannah's modesty was not limited to her academic achievements. She called it being minimalistic, so refreshing in our shopping mania society. Hannah is my sister, and I miss her already. I can imagine how so much more difficult it is for you. I am with you sharing our terrible loss and grief, but also so grateful for our precious memories. Love, Dolly. I'm shaking. Okay. And this is mine. What can I say about my wonderful mom? She was an incredible lady, wife, and mother. My mom was completely and selflessly devoted to her family and took such good care of us. We were all just shocked and utterly stunned by her death because Mom was strong and in good health. In fact, it's my father, not my mother, who's had health issues in recent years. I remember when I was little, Mom would come home from work at around 5 or 5:30, change, and then immediately start making 2 dinners. The main dinner for Dad and Danny, and a completely separate dinner for me because I was such a picky eater. And it was just what she did. I never thought twice about it as a kid. But looking back, I can't even imagine cooking 1 dinner, let alone 2 dinners after work every day. I now realize that for my entire life, my mom would drop absolutely any plan she had in an instant if I ever needed her help. And I never really thought twice about it because Mom took care of us. It was just what she did. My mom had a passion to learn her entire life. My parents attended all kinds of performances and exhibits and lectures. And Mom also loved the outdoors. She craved fresh air, went for walks almost daily. She hiked in state parks with my dad and loved to plan outings for them to enjoy. My parents explored the world. Mom did not really travel to rest. She traveled to explore. She had to see all there was to see. She did not want to miss or skip a thing, and she insisted that we all keep up with her. On more than one occasion, I would be completely exhausted, and Mom would be pushing to go more and see more. It's just what she did. My mom was also very practical and lived very modestly. She was completely non-materialistic and was not one for anything superfluous. Mom drove the most basic car, would drive it for a decade, and would be very sad to have to part with it. Interestingly, however, she was quite often completely unable to recognize her car in a parking lot. On more than one occasion, she would approach and attempt to enter a car that was not hers, because to my mom, a silver Toyota Corolla was identical to a silver BMW. She would be completely shocked to discover that this high-end silver car wasn't unlocking and that, in fact, it wasn't hers. Oh, good Lord, Mom. And I must say that though my mom lived very humbly, she was extremely indulgent toward us. She was truly the most frugal, yet generous and giving person I know. It's just who she was. So, Mom, it is so hard to say goodbye, especially a goodbye that is so horribly premature and so painfully permanent. Lila Tofi Machali, I love you so much, and I'll miss you every day. And thank you so much for being here for us. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your love and support.
Each of us has precious memories of Hannah. We take a moment now as we silently compose the eulogy of our own hearts. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. And life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to old age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage to life everlasting. We invite God to accept Hannah's soul with the words of El Malay, please rise. El Malay Rachamim, Shochein Ba'amaromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kiroshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Matzhirim et Nishmat Hana Bat Shena Vesasha Shahalchal Olama Baal Harachamim Yastireha Beseter Kanafav Olamim Bitzror Hachaim et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Anna Burke, to Hannah, daughter of Shana and Alexander Sasha, who has entered unto eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us answer, Amen. You may be seated. Our service continues at the Mount Olive Cemetery, and the family will receive friends and family today until 8 p.m. at the residence of Karen and Bruce, which is 34420 Appleview Way in Solon. Those who wish may make a contribution to the J&F Plant a Tree in Israel Fund, or to a charity of your choice.